Hey guys, Ronan here. Are you thinking or considering becoming a lease operator? Well, I put together a list of the 10 things that you should know or consider before becoming a lease operator or signing with a company on their lease purchase program. So the first thing you really need to do is do your research. Do your research on the company, do your research on the internet, see the reviews that they have, and make sure you talk to other drivers in that company on their lease purchase program. So if you're thinking of going to company A or company B, make sure that you find the drivers that are currently on the lease purchase program, at least one or two. Talk to them about mileages, talk to them about pays, talk to them about the company, their dispatch habits. Try to get one or two guys that have completed the lease, or talk to the guys that have completed the lease and that the ownership was transferred from the company name to the owner operator who was leasing the truck. Very important is to make sure that the company, it really does what it says it's going to do. So before signing your lease agreement, make sure you're looking for these particular spots within the lease agreement. So you want to make sure that you'll be able to successfully complete the lease agreement. So I've heard, because I interview hundreds of drivers and we sign on board with us drivers for our lease purchase program, I hear of all these stipulations within contracts that will make you not complete your lease purchase. Okay, so make sure you're looking at contracts where the term, the interest rate, and what they're selling the truck for. So again, you really need to look for the contract and the duration and make sure that it's reasonable. So you really don't want to go into a lease agreement where they lock you in for the next 5 or 6 years and you're paying X amount of dollars and you can't come out of it. Make sure that you're able to buy out that truck at any given time. You should always have on your lease agreement the market value, today's market value for the truck that you're leasing. So for example, if you're leasing a 2018 or 2019 Freightliner Cascadia, make sure the purchase price of that truck is on your lease agreement and compare it to actual trucks that are in the market. So for example, if you're going to sign for a 2019 or 2020 Freightliner Cascadia, the purchase price should be around $120,000, $115,000. Make sure that you're not paying $200,000 or $225,000 for this truck. And the way that you do that is just take your monthly payment that the company wants you to pay, multiply that by the amount of months that you're going to be signing for, and make sure that it's equivalent to today's market value. Obviously, there is going to be some interest that they're going to charge you, but make sure they're not charging you 20-30%. So the next thing is what happens in a case where you default in your payment. So I've seen some lease agreements that if you default in a payment, all of a sudden there's hundreds or if not thousands of dollars in penalty fees. Well, if the truck is down and it's down for 15 days or it's down for repair, and if for 15 days or a month you weren't able to make that payment or you weren't able to make the full payment, make sure you ask what happens in a situation like that or what the company does. So some companies will tackle it to the end of your lease. Other companies will deduct it from your holdback, and then there's some companies that will just you defaulted in your payment, and they'll just take the truck away from you. So make sure you ask that and make sure that it's in your lease on what happens if there's a month skipped or a month that you couldn't pay it off. Another thing that you should be looking for is a clause in your lease agreement is what happens when you're finished paying off your truck. Make sure that it's not in your lease agreement that there's a buyback for that truck after the duration of your 48 or 52 months. So for example, you don't want to see back there that once you finish paying off the truck, there's a buyback for the truck of $30,000 or $40,000 at the end. Lease purchase programs have this never ever stigma that people call it, because a lot of the bigger companies, what they do is they'll put a clause in the end that once you finish paying off this truck, there's a buyback, an additional buyback of $30,000 or $40,000. Well, that truck is not worth $30,000 or $40,000 after the course of 5 years. So make sure that there is no buyback in the end, and if there is a buyback, then make sure it's a reasonable amount, that it's at least half of what the truck is worth, so it'd be worth it for you to buy it out. So for example, let's say after 5 years the truck is only worth $45,000. Make sure that there's nothing more than $10,000 or $15,000 buyback in the back over there, because if there's $45,000 and your truck is only worth $45,000, you're really not going to be buying it out. So all these months that you've spent and paid for the lease payment, it's just going to go to the garbage. Another important question to ask is what happens if you want to upgrade your truck? So let's say you leased a 2021 Freightliner Cascadia, and then after 3 years, these newer trucks came out, and the newer trucks, their fuel efficiency is now 12 miles per gallon or 13 miles per gallon. Well, you don't want to be stuck with the truck that consumes 8 or 8.5 miles per gallon. So ask them what happens in the case where you want to upgrade your truck. Number 3, so the third thing you want to consider is what happens in your first 3 months. So you really want to plan this out. So your first 3 months, you just signed your lease agreement. What you want to make sure is that you planned out properly your first 3 months. You're not going to be bringing home as much money as you think you're going to be bringing home, because I've seen a lot of these companies, what they do is they either do an influx on your holdback, or they want you to replenish a repair account. So I've seen these lease agreements from other companies, and the first few months that you're working, a big portion of your pay goes into this this repair account or this holdback account. So you really want to plan for the first 3 months when you're not going to be making as much as they're telling you that you're going to be making. Number 4, when thinking of which company to sign a lease program, a lease purchase program contract, you really need to look at the owner-operators that are within that company. So make sure that you talk to owner-operators within the company. Make sure you talk to other lease operators within the company. Ask the company for a couple of phone numbers. I am just fine with giving out phone numbers of our drivers as long as they're okay with it. I usually give 1 or 2 numbers as a reference for drivers that are on the program or drivers that have completed the program. So this way the driver can get firsthand. I can talk all I want about our lease purchase program, but a driver really wants to hear it from another driver that's in the program or another driver that has completed the program. So don't be shy to ask for a number, ask for somebody who's completed the program, and make sure that you're really confident with what you're doing. Do all the research, make sure you look at the internet, read all the reviews that are on it. Somebody with a really bad taste in their mouth, if you left a company or if somebody misguided you, you're gonna read about that on the internet. If somebody falsified or marketed something that really wasn't 100%, you're gonna hear about it on the internet. So make sure you read the company's reviews. There's always gonna be good and there's always gonna be bad, but how much bad is there? So make sure you're looking at the Google reviews. So number 5, when signing a lease program, yes, you're becoming an owner operator. Yes, you're going to be making more money. You should be making a lot more money, at least 30-40% more. And if you're not, there's something wrong with the program that you're in. You really need to be making between 30 to 40% more income as a lease operator versus when you were a company driver. If there's 15 days or 1 month hiccup, you didn't get enough miles, that's fine. But if you find it consistent over 2 months, that's a red flag. You need to ask yourself why you're not making 30 or 40% more than what you were as a company driver. So remember that there's also, there's more money, and with more money comes more responsibility. And that's something that you really mentally need to prepare yourself for. That, there can be a situation where something happened to your truck and the truck is down for 4 or 5 days. And how are you going to accept that or take that in that, your truck is down and you're not making money for 4 or 5 days. But when you're not making money for 4 or 5 days, you still have the expenses of that truck. Right? So just like you have a home and just like you have a leased car, if the car is down or you need to change brakes and the car is in the shop for 2 or 3 days, you're still paying for your car. Well, the same thing happens in a lease program. When the truck is down, you're still paying for that truck. So you really need to be mentally prepared for that. Another thing you need to take into consideration is the cost of maintenance. You really need to ask yourself, how much is this truck going to? And there's a lot of forums online and there's a lot of truck drivers online that really broke it down into a cents per mile formula. Is how much cents per mile do you really need to put aside for maintenance, repairs, maintenance, for oil changes? Have that in mind, take that into consideration. Again, do your research online, read up on these forums, on the truck that you want to get, the fuel consumption that it has, and what is that truck going to be costing you? Because when the truck is fairly new, there is no breakdowns, but you have to save for 2 years down the road and 3 years down the road when there is going to be breakdown and when there is going to be maintenance that you're gonna need to pay for. Do not go for those fancy schmancy trucks with iron and chrome and that give you a fuel consumption of 6 miles per gallon or 6.5 miles per gallon. Honestly, you're not gonna last long in that program, and really, I mean, all the money that you're gonna be making, you're gonna be shooting out the tubes because the fuel consumption is no good. If your truck is doing less than 7.5 or 8, even 8 miles per gallon, that's where your truck needs to be in order for you to be profitable. You really need to take that into consideration. You have to do your research online. You need a truck that drives, whether it's winter or summer. You should be doing at least 8 miles per gallon in the winter time and about 8.5 in the summer time, spring, summer, and fall. Do not get a truck that has a fuel consumption of 5.5, 6, or 6.5. You're gonna be wasting at least about $1,500 to $2,000 a month just in fuel. So make sure you go for not the beauty, make sure you go for the fuel consumption of the truck. So another thing that you need to consider before signing a lease is your taxes, is tax planning. Make sure that you have a good accountant, because your accountant is gonna help you guide and help you save more money in the long run. You really need to research on what kind of receipts you need to keep. Well, you really need to keep all your receipts, but you really need to have a session with your accountant where they're gonna tell you what kind of receipts, what kind of repairs, how you can save in the long run being an owner operator versus when you're a company driver. It's a different ball game when you're on payroll and when you have your own corporation. You really need to plan your taxes in advance, well in advance. So the last thing that you need to take into consideration is to just be patient, take your time. You know, you're signing a lease for the next 3 or 4 years of your life. Do the proper research. Don't just sign up to one of those never plans. And I've seen them hundreds of times. I've seen drivers that talk about them. What's the point? Get yourself into a good program. It doesn't matter which company it is, just do your research. Find out about the drivers that are working there, find out about the duration, the amount that they're charging you for the truck. Get yourself into a really good company, and my recommendation is always work for the company at least a few months before you sign the lease with them. You want to see the routes, you want to see the mileage that they give you, you want to talk to other drivers. Not after you sign the lease. You want to do that while you're working for the company. When you're working for a company in the yard, you'll get to see a lot of people, you'll get to see other drivers, you talk to them, they'll tell you really what's up with the company. Not after you sign your lease and then all of a sudden, you find somebody in the yard and they're like, oh, you signed up for this program. A big no-no. So make sure you do the research before, work for the company before you sign the lease program, get familiar with their dispatch, get familiar with their mileages, see what the home time is like. Sometimes, you'll be on the road for a week or two at a time, and other companies you'll be on the road only for 2 days at a time before you come home. So make sure the company is a good fit for you. Don't worry so much about making the money. I gotta be an owner operator, I need to make more money every single month. Make sure that it's a good fit for you first. Well, there you have it, guys. So those are the 10 things that you need to know before signing the lease agreement with any company out there. For those that like the video, subscribe to our channel. We create lots of content on trucking related topics. If you're enjoying these videos, give us a thumbs up, like our page, and subscribe to our channel. I'm Ronan, and I'll catch you in the next one.